Welcome to New Realities. I'm here with two beautiful women who are high spiritual teachers, and we're going to discuss the kind of connections between consciousness, the body, yoga, and UFOs, of course. So, Desiree Hurtak and KimTangYoga, Dr. Desiree Hurtak, Academy for Future Science. So, how do you think your work with consciousness and evolution and science connects with what she's doing, Kim's doing with the body, mind?
Thank you. Many people ask us, what is the way to have connection, to make contact, like the title of your book.
Right.
And we usually go back to meditation, and also a form of meditation really is yoga. And yoga, if you look at it, is union, and that's what we're trying to achieve. And not just making contact with extraterrestrials, although they're very interesting as well, but really with higher levels of intelligence. We'll say the source, the Godhead. And really, it's a matter of putting your state of mind into a space that you can receive this type of energy. Do you agree?
That is a massive yes. And so, first of all, the question that you asked, quite literally, kind of like was the answer with the reinforcing talking points, right?
Repeat that.
What was the question?
The question I asked is, how does it relate to the field work that they're doing?
You said something like, where does science and meditation and
Consciousness and the body.
Yoga is science, meditation, consciousness, the body. So what the question that you asked was the answer that both of us would provide about our respective approaches.
So how do you would incorporate, Desiree and J.J. Hurtak are into future science, or into pushing the envelope of consciousness. How do you relate to that in your work?
I relate completely. When we talk about yoga as being unity, there are all different types of unity, some of which we talked about specifically last night in your book signing. And that is not only first your connection to your highest self, the connection between you and you is where it all begins. And only through the connection to you and you can you find, in a field of trust with no judgment, connection to all other living beings. And now we can talk about even the higher level of that, connection to higher energies, and whether or not they present in form. Are you able to actually connect to intelligent sources that are contributing to the field that you bathe in at all times?
That makes sense, right?
Right, and she has my book with my husband on her lap, and it's Over Self-Awakening. And really, this is part of what we're talking about. I mean, because really, who are we? I think that's the important thing. If you think you're nothing, you're just like born here and you die here, and that's about it, and you get fun for about 65 years if you're lucky. Right. Most people are depressed instead. Then you're not getting who you are in terms of the way we see it. And I think also with yoga, you're trying to get into your greater self. And so technically, we see ourselves as this physical little being down here, but in actuality, we are much more vast, and we have the potential to be connected with the entire universe. And there's different ways to do that, and different religious possibilities, but ultimately, we need to start seeing ourselves as a greater wholeness, as really a manifestation temporarily on this planet.
Well, that's what both of your works go with. It's about pushing the envelope of who we think we are.
But who we think we are is typically the limiting factor.
Exactly.
So the personality self of, okay, my name is Kim, and I have this hair, and that's the limitation. That is not the truth of who we are. And so what we're all talking about is connecting to, in fact, the truth of who we are. And whether you do that through yoga, whether you do it in this over self-awakening.
The over self-awakening is the truth of who we are, laid out by J.J. and Desiree Hurtak.
Right. It's 72 phases of opening your physical self to your greater self. And each phase is really something that almost all of us go through in some way.
As we progress along the path of yoga, in a sense, at yoga meaning the science of life, the positions of incarnation, the expansion of the mind field, as you talk about. So as we progress in this incarnation bringing in more and more consciousness, yes, we meet the extraterrestrials, we expand the potentials of our body and mind.
And I can't help but notice that we're all kind of describing the same elephant, maybe from different perspectives or with different language, because what I think that the over self-awakening is all about is quite literally what we talked about in chakra diagnostics. So the more that you can open, activate, and energize your energy system, the higher your frequency. You become this activated light body, which is exactly, this is almost like a how-to manual to activate that light body.
So give us a little wisdom as we kind of close this little segment about how to access the overself.
Well, first of all, it's understanding that consciousness is not limited to the brain. I think that is first and foremost. That we have to see consciousness, as many scientists and we'll say metaphysicians are starting to do, as a field. And what we can open to, we can receive the greatest wisdom beyond the planet. I think that's so important. Or we can be limited to just our local field. It depends what we want. Our intention, I think, is extremely important. And really the processes that we use to expand that. Yoga really being one of them, meditation another, prayer is another for those of the Judeo-Christian tradition. So once we do that, then we start literally having a still small voice within us that starts guiding us, helping us, giving us all the possibilities. Quantum physics says there's myriads of possibilities, and we choose one of those to reduce to. But if we are not open to the myriad, then we're limited to a very small choices that we sometimes make.
And the choice that we typically make is the one that has been known by us historically, the one that we are familiar with. And by the way, the projection of ourselves. So we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. And so we take that thought identification that is shackled with fear and limiting beliefs and agreements made in fear, and then we project that into the future. So what we tend to choose is what we have chosen.
But the one thing I want to just ask you when she says consciousness is beyond the body, consciousness is also of the body and in the body. So how do you kind of integrate that consciousness beyond the body and also very much in each cell of our bodies?
Through the mind and the central nervous system.
Explain that.
Okay, so we have a left hemisphere, a right hemisphere, and we have an energetic channel called the sushumna. And when we use the body as a learning device for the mind, so body is a learning device for the mind, then we send the command from the brain through the spine without the thought obstruction. We quite literally lay down the line of communication, the neural pathways, and the body is simply in response to the thoughts. And that, by the way, is true on every level of being. So you're kind of playing this track in the background at all times of who you think you are, how will you perceive yourself in this context, what will your contribution be, and then your feelings are in response to those thoughts that are typically not true. They're typically mired with fear and limited beliefs, thought identification.
And we would agree with that. On a scientific level, there's what's called pyramidal cells in the brain, which are really pyramidal cells. They're part of the energy that makes our brains think. And also, traditionally, even in the Judeo-Christian, there's been the blood, and the blood running throughout your body. It's not that the consciousness is only outside. You obviously bring in that aspect of consciousness into yourself that you're willing to work with. And it's really a matter of expanding that.
So take this advice here from these great women who've put a lot of time into understanding consciousness, into understanding the greater self, and see if you can use that in your own life to start making contact with who you really are, what's out there, the planet, and the great unknown.
And the universe, and the cosmos, and the source of the divine.
And your body.
And all the ETs that are waiting for us.
There we are. Just the last thought is that we tend to say, okay, you are not your body, you are not your body, you're not your body. And the real message there is that you're something beyond form. But then the subsequent thought is, well, you are the ocean, and you are the stars, and you are the earth, you are the elements. But you know what? You are also every single cell of your body.
Right.
Every single cell.
That's the key.
And so there's
we would agree with that.
You are.
So you are your body in a sense because you're everything, but you have this piece of earth you're walking around in, so love it, nurture it, enjoy it.
Think positive
No, but
thoughts.
also take care of it. It is your child. It is the child that you are nurturing on the earth plane. So it's here to serve us for access to consciousness. So that's what I would say. Thank you both, Alan Steinfeld with Kim Tang and Desiree Hurtak at the Yoga Shala in Yucca Valley and the Over Self Awakening. Thank you all for being here.